Today I have got the best AI agent I've ever built. I'm going to show you exactly how to build this thing from scratch with no experience. Or if you just want to, cheat your way to success and you can't be bothered building this, I'll leave the link to my school community below where you can get the full downloadable JSON file, which you can literally just download and plug and play this thing. But for everyone who wants to stick around and know how to build this thing, you're going to see exactly how I built this from the beginning till the end. And I'm going to warn you now, get your coffee because this thing is hefty. You're only going to want to run this thing like once or twice a day because it uses so much data and so many tokens. Tokens being the amount of information you get from ChatGPT's API, which is just like basically how we connect it to n8n. But sit back, relax, and let's test this thing out. So first off, I'm going to give you a quick demo of how this thing works, and then I'm going to show you how to build it. So I'm going to let this thing run in the background because it does take around 2 to 3 minutes to run in total. But basically how it works from a Telegram trigger. So first of all you do on Telegram is you go to telegram/botfather. So if you go to the top here, I've just closed these off. But if you literally search in the search bar at the top of Telegram, botfather / is going to open up the botfather chat where you can create your own Telegram bot. I'm not going to go over it in this because the video would be too long, and it's super simple. It's just going to run you through some steps. You're literally going to name the bot. You're going to get an API key from it, and then you can get going with this thing. But I built this Telegram bot here, and it's going to give us the full analysis. So we're going to execute the workflow here, and then we're going to go to Telegram, and what we're going to do is we can import any symbol that we want. So for example, you're looking at Tesla stock, we're looking at Apple stock, looking at Nvidia stock. We can just literally put the stock symbol in, and bear in mind, don't type in Tesla or Apple. You have to put the ticker like this. So for Tesla, it's TSLA, but we're going to go with Apple. So let's go with AAPL, send. And then we should see this thing run in here. So let's have a little look. So what it's doing here is, first of all, this first node, what this does is it goes to Polygon. Now, Polygon it's like a market data. So it gives you, as it says here, it's stock market data API. It's free to make. Everything in this workflow is free pretty much. Apart from it uses a few OpenAI credits, but other than that, it's fine. It's not going to cost you much at all. But if we just go to Polygon, for some reason it won't load. I think it's because it's using so much data in the background, so I'll show you that in a minute when we set it up. But basically this one, what this does, it goes and grabs market data from Polygon. The second one goes and grabs company information from the tickers, same from Polygon. A ticker is just like you put the symbol in, that's the ticker. The ticker tells you like the price of the company. And then this one grabs financial statements, again from Polygon. And then there's one separate API, and this is just for news articles. So what this one does is it grabs any news articles from the last 24 hours. Again, this is a completely free API. I don't want you paying for any of these, except the OpenAI one. Then all this node does here is this just merges these 4 pieces of data into one. And then this runs it through our market intelligence hub, which basically just puts it into one data set, which this little code node here basically just formats the data so that these hedge fund manager agents, which we're going to go over now, can actually read this data. So what we've done is we programmed the trading strategy of Steve Cohen, is that how you say it? Who is like one of the best hedge fund managers in the world. We've got Charlie Munger and obviously Warren Buffett, they work together. And then we've got the Bill Ackman one, and we've got Ray Dalio. These are all like the best hedge fund managers in the world, and these all have the personality of that person, and they use the trading strategy and the trading style of that person as well. Now this is definitely overkill. This uses so much information that I had to put these weight nodes in here just so it doesn't like max out the limit of OpenAI. But honestly, this thing is so cool, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it. You could just run this thing with one of these agents, but for some reason, just to be fancy, just try and be cool, I went for 5. Then what it does then, again, because we've got multiple data sets, all we need to do is merge that back into one. So we merge it into one. This code just formats it for the risk management. So then we have a further agent. This one just basically gives us like a risk assessment on the trade, tells us whether it's safe or not to enter. And because Telegram has a usage limit, we actually have to split the message up into 4 parts. So it gives us first off a summary of the trade, then it goes into part 1, part 2, and part 3. So yeah, as you can see, it's still running in the background. It's only going onto the Steve Cohen one, so you can see how big this thing and how much data it's actually processing. So I think the answers are pretty cool. So I'll show you an example answer while we're waiting. So this is from a run I did yesterday, and I've actually fixed this since because it's in reverse order. The summaries come last. But it'll say hedge fund analysis, Tesla, investment committee, 5 legendary investors, analysis state complete. It then goes on to give you this huge report. So It suggests a position size, 6% of your portfolio, a risk rating, expected annual return, maximum expected loss, and then it gives you the sort of analysis from each agent and what their take is on it essentially. So you can see Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett took the same sort of 7 risk rating on it. Ray Dalio, selective allocate, medium risk, advocates 3 to 6% allocation. So this is super cool. I've done so much work. I've actually been pulling my hair out for like the last 2 days building this thing for you guys. So I really hope you enjoy it and have some fun with this thing. As I said, don't run it too much because, it uses a lot of data. So it's still running. So, we're just going to get straight into the build instead of waiting for this. But, you obviously will see that it's complete because you'll receive a Telegram message. So we're just going to start this from scratch. So the first thing we need to do is a Telegram trigger. And now this can be any trigger that you want. And to be honest, it would make more sense to have a webhook trigger. A webhook trigger is where we can use something like, Claude Code or Lovable to build a simple landing page front end so when you type a message on that front end, you could say to Lovable, build me a chat interface. When I give the symbol in for the trade, I want you to respond. And then this would trigger the webhook. But we're using Telegram just for simplicity because I did come into a few errors with the webhook version. So we're just going to do on message as the trigger. And then all you need to do here is put your Telegram credentials in. So you're going to press this edit here. You're going to put your API key in here. And then obviously just going to put the same base URL, which is api.telegram.org. Then that's all set up, and make sure you've got this as trigger on message. We'll leave that as it is. The next one, we need to add 4 HTTP requests. Now for 3 of these, they are all the same. We use Polygon, so we can copy and paste these, but we're going to change a few things in them. But to get the Polygon API, you just need to go to polygon.io, create API key, and then you're going to create an account if you don't have one already, and then you're just going to get this API key, and we're going to use this in a second. So you've got your API key from Polygon, so next we're going to add the HTTP request. So we go to HTTP request, we're going to do it as get, and then we're going to put the URL in for Polygon. And, feel free to copy and paste this. It isn't a template inside my school community, but you just want to screenshot this and put this in. This is exactly what we're going to put in here. So we've just got this URL, which is the URL for Polygon. And then JSON message, so what this is doing, this field is grabbing the message that we sent from Telegram. And then this is just a date range, which is telling you, what date. This just gives it a unique identifier essentially. As you can see down here, it's giving you with the filled in sort of data below. So ticker, so this would say Apple or Tesla, whatever you put in. And then we've got the date range. So it's just a 1-day date range. And then we need to grab some query parameters. So query parameters, I don't want to overcomplicate this because everyone on YouTube is like talks in this technical slang. But query parameters are just essentially what it's looking for, what it's grabbing from that website. And for this, all we're grabbing is the API key because this URL already tells this part of the agent what to get from Polygon. So it's saying, go and look at the ticker symbol. That's what you want to grab. So the only thing we would normally, if it didn't say that, then we would put, ticker in here. And then we'd put, we drag the JSON here for Apple into here. But we don't need to do that. The URL already does that. So all we need to add here is API key. So you're going to put API key, and then you're going to put your API key in here, which you're going to grab from Polygon, which we have at the bottom here. Should probably blur this out, but this is your API key here. I'm not going to show you my API key, so I've made that mistake before and everyone run it up. But from your Polygon dashboard, you'll be able to see your API key there. Say like frost spoof next to it. Put that in there, and then that's all you need to do. I'm going to rename this one Daily Market Data. Then we're just going to back out of that one, and we can just copy and paste this 3 times now. So I put a fake API key in, so you can't all copy and paste this API key and run it up on me. But let's just paste this 3 times, and then we can just go in this one. And this one is going to be called Company Fundamentals. And then we can get rid of all this JSON here. We don't need it, except this where it says message text. We're going to leave that, and we might need to change this and actually import the actual message when we test this workflow. But we're going to copy this bit, then we're going to delete it. It's important that we copy that because we need it for this bit here. So we're going to add one more query parameter. We want it to go and find the ticker. So we're going to put ticker, and then we're going to put this json.message.text in here. And then we need to also make sure that the response is formatted as JSON, so we can change this. This is just a bit of overkill, but this is just to make sure all the data runs correctly through the workflow. And let's go back to the market data one and just make sure we have formatted this. So go to this add option at the bottom, response. Then we're going to go to JSON. And the reason we're doing this is, don't let this run over your head and be too technical. This is just so that all the same type of data is coming through the workflow, because if we're sending text at one point, HTML at one point, JSON at another point, then this is going to get confused and it's going to break somewhere along the line. So you just need to make sure that all the data is nice and neat, essentially. So let's connect this one up. Then we're going to go to the next one. And this one is going to be called company financials. And this time we're going to change this. We're going to get rid of that and we're going to paste this URL. So feel free, it's just the same URL as the other ones, but instead at the end it says financials because we want it to grab the financial data this time. And then again, we need to add one more query where it says ticker. And then we're going to put the value JSON, and then we're going to copy and paste this value in, which is just json.message.text. And you're probably thinking, how did I know how to put this in? This will come up automatically in this section. When we do a test run, which we'll do in a second, and we can fix this, we can literally just drag this over. But I knew how to put this here, not because I'm a genius, but because I've already built this workflow. So I know what already goes here essentially. But then we just, one last step, we need to go to response, and then we're going to go down to change this to JSON. And then we've got just one more for this section. So we're going to grab news. So we're going to grab any news articles from the last 24 hours. And this is going to help us get a market sentiment, and sentiment meaning, what's the vibe right now? What's going on with this symbol or with this stock or with this currency pair? So we're going to do one more HTTP request. We're going to do get. And this time we're going to go to this website. It's called newsapi.org. And as you can see, it is completely free. Again, I want you to only use things that are free. The only thing that's not free, and it's like micro pennies, is when we're making API calls to OpenAI at the other part of the agent. That's for the actual agent bit. But for any news articles and anything like that, I want it all to be free. So you're going to create an account with these guys, going to get your API key, and then we're going to use that in a second. And then the URL you're going to use for this one, so let's just rename it, is newsapi.org v2/everything. Feel free to pause this, copy and paste this. We're going to change this to news and sentiment. And then we're going to need to send some query parameters. So query, as I said, just to keep it simple, I don't want this going over your head, because whenever someone mentioned parameters and query, sounds too technical, but query is just what we want to actually grab from that website, what we're actually looking for from that website. If you can imagine, it's what we're querying, what question are we asking essentially. That's the best way I could probably explain it in simple terms. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put API, but this time it has a capital K. It's just the way that this specific website spells it. And then we're going to put the value in. So from the News API website that you just signed up to, you're going to copy and paste this API key in here. So I'm just going to put your API key, and then we're going to add another parameter, which is going to be Q, which is going to be query. And then you're just going to copy and paste this in, which is the message. So this is the message we sent on Telegram. And then we just got this extra bit just for a little bit of clarification. If anything, it's definitely overkill. I think the message is enough. And then the last one, this is just to tell it, when we need the documents from. So we want the documents from the last 24 hours. So we're going to put from as the name, and then you're going to copy and paste this value. So pause again, take a screenshot if you want. It's just basically saying, take any news documents from today, and it's going to format it in year, month, date. Now, I'm not going to test this because, it's already running. I know it works. But we need to delete this connection and make sure that it's connected here. So I'm quickly going to put my actual API keys in so we can test it together, just to make sure, because we want to test each section to make sure it's working so we can pick up any errors before it happens essentially. And also, just so you can see how big and how much data this thing's actually taking in, this thing is still going. And I want to make it clear to you guys that, you're not going to get an answer from a hedge fund in seconds. So don't expect it from this AI agent in seconds, because it is really analyzing so much data to make sure it's giving you a highly, highly researched portfolio decision back to you. So we're going to execute this. Let's try this out. And that's because we've got an error. That's because this is the wrong Telegram account. So we're going to put this as the right Telegram account. So we're going to open Telegram. I'm just going to test this trigger here, and we can see it's triggered, but we have one error. So I know what the error was. I just typed my API key in wrong. So let's just try it one more time. There's some sort of error here. So we had an error inside the company fundamentals. So this URL was wrong. I just missed the S off the end. So I've just replaced that. So that is the correct URL. And just took my API key in, which I'm going to put back in a second. So that's working. I'm going to execute this one. That's working. So we're going to go back, and then we're going to do the last one, which is the news API. Let's go and press execute step. And they are all working, so that's perfect. Now we can move on to the next bit. So now we need to add a merge node, because obviously we've got 4 different sets of data coming through here. So we need to put this into one data set. And then next we're just going to add a merge node. So we're going to press merge, and we're going to merge 4 outputs on because there's 4 different data sources coming in. I'm going to press 4, and then we're just going to connect these all up to this thing like this. So this is going to be 1. And by the way, guys, if you are a whiz with n8n, which, I consider myself pretty good at this thing, but there's always, ways I can improve. Please drop in the comments if there's a better way to build this. If you think you can build this more efficiently, please let me know. I'm always open to feedback, but this is the way I managed to do it, managed to get this thing running. So yeah. And then we're going to add another node called aggregate. So we're just going to combine all items into a single data list, connect that. I'm going to rename this Market Intelligence Hub. Then we're going to add our first little code node here. So don't be getting scared because it's code. These actually are so useful inside it. Everyone's scared of code in n8n, but this is actually one of the most powerful nodes because you can just get ChatGPT to write the code anyways. It's not even scary. And this fixes so many things. It eliminates the need for so many other nodes when you just get this little node, code node. And then all the code that we're just going to put in here, and I use ChatGPT to write this, it basically just formats the data so that it can be read by the agents easily. Because right now we've got probably I don't know, each of these probably has 7 different or 10 different news articles, and then this has 5 different 5 different financial reports. So we've got all these pieces of data. We just need to put it into a nice, neat way that the agents can actually read properly. So again, I'll just click into this code node. Feel free to screenshot this. So I'll go from this line to this line, and then we'll go from 50, and then that's the bottom part of it. So feel free to screenshot that. Again, if you just want this pre-built template, it will be in my school community. And I'll be doing weekly live calls showing you how to build things like this, cool things that are actually useful. There's so many people, I'm not going to shout out names, Nate Herc, that make stuff overcomplicate for no reason, literally just trying to get people confused. So, hopefully I try and be simple with these things. This is not a simple build, but I'm trying to explain it as simply as I can for you guys because I'm just like you. Even a few months ago, I was struggling to build these things, and now I can build these things pretty easily. And a little tip for you, Claude is really good at laying these out for you step by step. But I'm going off topic, so let's jump back in. So now, just so we don't overload these agents, which we're going to add in a second, we are going to add the agents next, but we need to add weight nodes. So we need to add weight, and we're going to copy and paste this 5 times because we have 5 different agents. This thing has finally complete, by the way. It took about 5 minutes, probably more. But as you can see, it's working. So I'm not selling you something that doesn't work. So now we're going to add this first one so there's 5 agents, but we only need 4 weights because one of them is going to start immediately. So the first one's going to be 15 seconds. And we're going to delete this connection here. And then we're going to copy and paste, Control V, Control C. This one's going to be 25 seconds. So there's going to be 10 seconds between them. 25.00. And then we're going to copy and paste. This one's going to be 35. And then we're going to have one more, which is going to be 45. And the only reason why we're doing this is not to overcomplicate things. It's just because we are dealing with so much data. This is an actual hedge fund data process inside n8n, all in one go in a few minutes. So we need to give it a break. Otherwise, you're just going to hit the token limit for OpenAI, and this can break everything. So we just need to add some waiting time just so we don't hit that limit all at once. So I'm going to connect this here. And now we get to the fun bit. We're actually going to add our agents in. So the first agent doesn't need to be connected to this wait thing, but we're going to add the Steve Cohen agent. So Steve Cohen is he's this guy, Steve Cohen. So he's a hedge fund manager. He's also the owner of the New York Mets, I believe, this guy. He has got a little insider trading thing. I didn't actually see that, but I mean, are we really looking into the ethics? It's just a bot, just an AI trading bot. So the next node we're going to add is AI, and then we're going to AI agent. I'm going to do define below, and I've already wrote these prompts for you, so you don't need to. So I'll put these in a Google Doc for you, actually. Yeah, I'll put these in the Google Doc, each prompt, instead of you screenshotting. I'll even put, actually, you know what I'm going to do for you? I'm going to put the code node ones in for you as well, so I'll put them below this video. But for now, I'm just going to open this up for you so you can see. So this is the user message, and this is coming up red because they haven't actually got any data yet. And then we're going to add a system prompt as well, which is going to be the actual personality for this thing. And you might be thinking, this seems kind of vague. I've tested this out with huge long prompts with in detailed explanation of Steve Cohen's trading strategy, and it's just too much information for it to process. This actually is using LLM, so it's using OpenAI, so it has access to his strategy already. It can go and use ChatGPT to figure out what his strategy is, so we don't need to specify it all inside the agent. As long as we tell it who it is, it knows how to act, essentially. So we're going to add the system prompt. So the system prompt, you are Steve Cohen, focusing on multi-strategy investing with emphasis on information edge, rapid execution, sophisticated risk management, thinking like a trader who combines deep research with opportunistic timing and advanced risk management. And then that is it. So we're just going to connect this one directly to the code node. So this one can go, I'm going to put this over here. So I know that's a little bit confusing, probably should have moved these down. And then we are going to give this a chat model. So what I found actually works best for this one, just because if we go any higher than 4.1 mini, it's just using too much of a context window, too many tokens. So we're just going to leave it as 4.1 mini. I'd only recommend running this thing once a day, honestly. It's so much information. We're then going to give it a simple memory. So we're just going to go simple, context window is 5, it's fine. And then we're going to add the next agent. So we're going to go plus, agent, AI agent, I'm going to define below. This one's going to be our Charlie Munger agent. So this is the user prompt we're using. Again, I'll leave this in the Google Doc below the video, I know because I'm a nice guy. I'm going to switch this to expression, and let's just make sure we did actually put the other one as expression as well. Yep, so that one's expression. And then we're going to rename this agent as well, Steve Cohen, which I forgot. Then we're going to rename this one Charlie Munger. And again, we're going to have to give this a chat model. So we're just going to go with OpenAI. We're going to go with the 4.1 mini. Again, simple memory. I wish there was a neater way to do this. And we will need to fix this memory ID later on when we do run the workflow. So we can just drag basically anything. So we can drag the JSON text. So what Telegram drags through, we can just drag into here as the key. Doesn't really matter, you know, you can drag anything into this box pretty much, as long as it's the same information that's running through the agent. So I'm going to do this, we're going to connect it to the first wait node here, so let's connect this up. And then we're going to clean this up a little bit, because this is looking pretty messy for a workflow. I know everyone likes to put more neat. I'm going to add another agent. So this one's going to be the Warren Buffett agent. I'm just going to define below again. Well, actually, before we do that, we need to go back to Charlie Munger and we need to add a system prompt. So we're going to go to add system message. We're going to get rid of this helpful assistant. We're going to tell it that you are Charlie Munger, applying multidisciplinary mental models, contrarian analysis, investment decisions. Be skeptical. So that's Charlie Munger, and then we're going to get Warren Buffett. So let's rename this one Warren Buffett. And then again, don't worry about these because I'll leave these in the Google Doc for you. But just give you a quick look at what it looks like. I'm Warren Buffett, investment agent, your task. You're Warren Buffett and analysing investment opportunities, focusing on margin of safety, long-term growth prospects, intrinsic value versus current price, etc., etc. Basically just his trading strategy, programmed into a prompt. Then we need to add a system message. So you are Warren Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha. Focus on long-term value investing with the emphasis on business quality, competitive moats, intrinsic value calculations. And this was actually one of the first books I ever read on trading was Security Analysis, which Warren Buffett recommends. I do not recommend. It's about this thick, and it's wrote in language from like the 1920s. I tried reading this when I was like 13. Didn't really take too much in from it, but you know, at least it's like I could say that I read it. So let's click out this one. And everyone's gonna think I'm an absolute nerd now. My sister sold my PS3. Yeah, one day I come home from school and she said, if you don't move out my room, I'm gonna sell it, and she did. So fair play. I read books from then on. But let's give this thing a brain. So again, we're gonna use the ChatGPT 4.1 mini, sorry. Give it a memory, simple memory, and this is just a pretty repetitive task at this point. We're just adding all the agents. So now we're going to add another hedge fund manager. So this one is going to be the Bill Ackman, and then we're going to do define below, put Bill Ackman's prompt in here, make sure it's on expression. You are Bill Ackman, his role is philosophy. This is in Markdown, by the way. You can just get ChatGPT to write it in Markdown. It's just a way of writing instructions a little bit easier for an AI to understand. Then again, we're going to add the system prompt, system message, and this is just where we give it its personality. So we're going to go, you are Bill Ackman, focus on activist investing, high conviction positions, catalyst driven. Let's give it a brain, give it a memory, simple memory. And also, because we are connecting our OpenAI account to this to use the agent, so we go to settings, you will need to have your OpenAI API key to do this. So in order to use ChatGPT, you have to have your credentials, your account here. So all you do to do that is you press edit here. You're gonna put your API key in here. You can get this at platform.openai, is it? Yeah, so it's platform.openai.com. So it's not loading for some reason, I think because we've got so many tabs open right now and I'm recording, but you can get your API key. You just go to the settings, search API key, get your API key, and you can connect your account. But I'm assuming if you're building this thing, you've probably got a little bit of experience. Your account's probably connected, so I'm not gonna go into that. Super simple to do. You just drop your API key in and you're connected. But I just thought I'd mention that. Make sure you've got some credit on your OpenAI account as well. I think I've got like $10 on there, but that's been enough to test this thing multiple times. It's only used a couple, pennies, I think probably like 10-20p to test this thing. Yeah, but I just wanted to mention this thing, make sure you've got some credit on your account. That's the URL you're going to use, and then obviously your own API key, but make sure you've got like, $10 on it. It's not going to use $10, but that's, what I've had on my account for like months, and that's been well enough to test, 10, 20, 30 different agents. And I've still got like £9.60 on it, so it's only used a couple pence. So yeah, that's the Bill Ackman agent. Let's connect it to the third one. And then we've got one more agent, which is the Ray Dalio agent. Defined below, we're gonna call this Ray Dalio. So it just goes over his role, his philosophy, his investment strategy. I'm gonna add the system message. And the system message every time just basically gives it its personality. So you're Ray Dalio, focusing on macro analysis, systematic investing, risk priority approaches, and that's it. So for the agents, we are, oh, he's over here. So yeah, we're just going to give him a brain. I'm just going to skip this bit because you've seen me do it 4 times, but we're going to give it a brain and a memory. And now we have all our agents. And now what we need to do is, again, we need to grab one of these merge nodes and merge all this data back together. Going to add merge. We're going to go with, we have 5 inputs. So we're going to get back, and where is it gone? Oh, it's over here. And then we're just going to connect these up one by one. So, and again, as I've said, this is complete overkill. You don't need to do this many agents. You could even do this with just one agent, and you're going to get an amazing answer still. So they are all connected now to the merge node. And then we're going to add another code node. Now this is just to format the data properly. Now we could add another aggregate, but the code node works a lot better. So I'll leave this in the Google Doc. This basically just formats the data correctly for the risk assessment agent, which comes next. So we're going to add another agent. This time it's going to be, call it risk management, and then we're just going to define below, and this is the prompt we're going to use for risk management. So you are the investment committee, chief officer and portfolio manager. You receive investment recommendations from 5 legendary investors. Please synthesize the analysis. So final portfolio decision, blah, blah, blah. It gives you all the data, stop loss, profit targets, risk management required. This is what actually formats this data and gives you a portfolio or trade position to place. We're then just going to give it a system message again, and this just gives it its personality. So you are chief risk officer and portfolio manager, sympathizing input. We're then going to add a chat model again. So let's add a chat model. I'm going to give it a memory, simple memory. And then we need to format data one more time. So we need to add another code node. And all this code node does is it breaks down the text, because next what we're going to do is send this back to Telegram. But as I said, Telegram has like a 4,000 character limit. And don't worry, we are nearly finished here. So all this is basically doing is saying send it in 4 parts. You're going to send it a summary, then part 1, then part 2, then part 3. So that's all this node does. So we could even rename this Telegram message splitter, and then we're going to add a send a message. So let's go to this. We're going to go to Telegram. I'm going to go to send a text message to this one here. And we're going to rename this one summary. And then you will need to get your chat ID. So once we test this thing, once we run it, you'll have a chat ID here. Your chat ID you can get from inside your Telegram chat, and then the text here would just be the text that comes through this. So we're going to execute it in a minute and test this thing, and I will troubleshoot with you, because bear in mind we will come across some issues when setting up. So that's going to be summary. We can just copy and paste this. I'm going to call this part 1, part 2, part 3, and then we're just going to connect it up to this code node in order. So summary wants to be at the top, and then we're going to add part 2 and part 3, and this thing is complete. So now let's test it and troubleshoot this thing. So let's execute workflow. We're going to come across an error, which is the Telegram error. So we're just going to disconnect this for now here, and let's try it again. We have an error, so please resolve. Let's find out where the error is coming from. This is fine. So it's coming from these nodes here. So let's disconnect these for now. Reconnect this code node. We're going to try it again. Okay, so now we're going to test it on Telegram. So let's try it with a symbol, TSLA. I'm going to send, this thing's running. I'm going to give it a minute. And then while this is actually running, so once this has started running, we're going to connect these back up so that we're going to have some data pull through to them. But for some reason, I found, okay, so we're going to fix this error. So I did mention before we would come into the memory error. So we're going to go and fix that first. So I'm going to disconnect these again and fix this. So all this is essentially is we need a unique identifier. So a unique identifier is one piece of information that's pulled through to the agent that unifies it with the memory. So it could be like a piece of data like text, like someone's name. So it goes name, name. So we've got the same name in the agent, the same name in the memory here. So we're going to just go, going to drag some data. So we're going to execute this previous one. We're going to do define below, and we're going to use a key from the agent. So let's see what this agent pulled in. So I've just run it again because the data wasn't pulling through. So we can see now, so we're just going to grab a piece of data from here. So let's go to JSON, and we're going to use this symbol here. So we're going to use JSON/symbol. So I'm just going to drag this in here, and I'm just going to, just for the purpose of copy and pasting it, just going to copy and paste this like that. I'm going to delete it out of here, go back to the memory, and this is just so we've got some piece of information that's the same as in the memory, and then we can just do this for all of these as well. So this will fix this issue. Just going to put symbol again, so this doesn't exist. So we're going to do define below symbol. We're going to do this for all the agents. This is the complete build, and once these have gone green, we can connect these back up like this. And then the only thing we're going to drag in from this is the data that's going to come through to this code node. I'm not going to leave you waiting because this takes minutes to run. But basically in this section, it's going to say summary in JSON. It's going to say part 1, part 2, part 3. So all we would need to do here is we'd go into these. We'd obviously put the chat ID that's dragged through from here. So we'd go to Telegram, find the chat ID, numbers that come up in your chat. And it'll also have summary part 1, part 2. So we're just going to drag summary into the summary here. And then we're going to drag part 1 into part 1 into the text here. And then we're going to do that for all of these. And then I promise you, this thing will work. But I'm not going to let you wait all this time for this to go through all these. But for example, let's just see if it's dragged anything through. So yeah, simple as that. I'm going to cut the video there because we could go in all day. But the only issues you're going to come across are the key in the memory not being the same. And then obviously you need to make sure your chat ID here is the same as your chat ID for your trigger. And make sure you drag from the code node, summary into summary, part 1 into part 1, part 2 into part 3, part 2 and then part 3. And this thing will work. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's been a long one because this is a complex build, but no one else on YouTube has done this sort of build. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and see you guys in the next one.